Saddam Hussein was the leader of Iraq, a dictator who ruled with absolute power until his downfall. While he was known for his ruthless control, his eldest son Uday Hussein was even more notorious for his cruelty. He was a man who lost all sense of morality, indulging in violence and depravity without restraint. Every week, dozens of young women were forced into his presence, and many met tragic ends, unable to endure the suffering he inflicted. In this account you will uncover the full story of Uday Hussein, the man who made brutality his way of life. Saddam Hussein governed Iraq from 1979 to 2003, a period marked by both economic growth and severe repression. On one hand, Iraq thrived due to its oil wealth, but on the other, its people lived under the iron grip of a dictator who crushed opposition, waged wars, and ruled through fear. While the citizens suffered, Saddam's family enjoyed immense privileges, living above the law. He was married at least twice and had 6 children. His eldest son Uday, the focus of this story, was born from his first marriage to Sajida Tulfa, Saddam's cousin. Their union was arranged when Saddam was only 5 years old and Sajida was 7, a political alliance rather than a marriage of love. Over the years they had 5 children together. Uday appeared to be a normal child in his early years, receiving praise from his teachers. However, beneath the surface he was already being shaped by the horrors of his upbringing. He witnessed public executions, carried out by his ruthless father, but unlike most children who would be terrified, Uday was fascinated. He was drawn to violence, playing with deactivated grenades, and showing an alarming enjoyment of cruelty. As he grew older, Uday became an intelligent yet defiant student. He ignored rules and did whatever he pleased. For example, he openly brought his girlfriend to class, violating strict school regulations. When a teacher reprimanded him, the man mysteriously disappeared soon after. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened, but given Uday's unchecked power, it is widely believed that he was responsible for the teacher's fate. Had Uday been raised in a normal household, he might have turned out differently. But as the son of a dictator, he was exposed to unimaginable horrors and granted absolute immunity from consequences. He quickly realized that as the son of Iraq's most powerful man, he could do anything he wanted. No one could stop him, and no one could punish him. This combination of unlimited power and a deeply disturbed mind led to devastating consequences. Even years after his death, Iraqis still remember his reign of terror with fear and disgust. As the eldest son, Uday was expected to follow in his father's footsteps. However, his sadistic nature and uncontrollable temper ultimately cost him his father's favor. Instead, Saddam chose his second son, Qusay, as his preferred successor. Unlike Uday, Qusay was seen as more stable and reliable. He held a high-ranking military position, overseeing the elite Iraqi Republican Guard and the Special Security Organization, SSO. Uday, on the other hand, was given lesser roles, such as chairman of the Iraqi Olympic Committee and head of the Iraq Football Association. While these positions seemed trivial compared to Qusay's military authority, they still gave Uday immense power he used to unleash his cruelty. The two brothers never got along, frequently clashing over who would inherit their father's rule. While Uday was the eldest, Saddam made it clear that Qusay was his chosen successor, believing him to be more disciplined and easier to control. This infuriated Uday, who refused to accept being cast aside. He dreamed of taking his father's place and ruling with even greater brutality than Saddam himself. As the head of Iraq's football federation, Uday's sadistic impulses were on full display. If the national team won a match, he rewarded them generously, but if they lost, they faced brutal punishments. Reports later surfaced that he personally oversaw the torture of players who failed to meet his expectations. These weren't simple reprimands. Players endured electric shocks, prolonged starvation, and even imprisonment in underground cells. Some were left permanently injured, their careers destroyed. Fear of Uday spread throughout Iraq's sports community, and many of the country's best athletes fled to escape his wrath. Unlike his father, who used fear as a political tool, Uday inflicted pain simply because he enjoyed it. He ruled his subordinates through terror, punishing them for the smallest mistakes. A minor lateness, a perceived insult, or even an innocent remark could result in savage beatings or worse. Those around him lived in constant fear, knowing that their lives depended entirely on his unpredictable moods. One of Uday's most infamous acts occurred in 1988 during a party held in honor of Suzanne Mubarak, the wife of Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. In a fit of rage, he brutally murdered his father's personal valet and food taster, Kamel Hanegio. Some believe his mother, Sajida, encouraged him, but the real reason was personal. Gio had introduced Saddam to Samira Shabandar, the woman who became his second wife. Uday saw this as an insult to his mother's honor and sought revenge. For the first time, Saddam was truly enraged by his son's actions. As punishment, he had Uday imprisoned and fed only bread and water. To further humiliate him, Saddam ordered the destruction of Uday's prized luxury car collection. However, the punishment didn't last long. Uday was soon released and exiled to Switzerland as an assistant to the Iraqi ambassador. Even in exile, he couldn't control his violent impulses, frequently getting into fights and causing diplomatic scandals. Within 6 months, he was forced to return to Iraq. Back home, his cruelty only worsened. In 1996, he was ambushed by a group of gunmen while driving through Baghdad. He was shot multiple times, with at least 2 bullets lodging in his spine. Though he survived, he was left with permanent injuries, walking with a noticeable limp for the rest of his life. Rumors swirled that he had been left impotent. Despite his weakened state, he remained as violent as ever, his paranoia growing as his physical strength declined. Uday's personal life was equally tragic. He married 3 times, but none of his marriages lasted. His violent temper and sadistic tendencies made it impossible for any woman to stay with him. Instead, he indulged in an endless cycle of affairs and one-night stands, forcing countless women into his company. Those who rejected him faced terrifying consequences: beatings, imprisonment, or worse. By the time of the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, Uday and Qusay had gone into hiding in Mosul. On July 22, 2003, American forces tracked them down to a villa. After a 6-hour siege, US troops bombarded the house with gunfire, rockets, and grenades. When the battle ended, Uday's lifeless body was found inside. The once feared tyrant was dead. His death was not mourned. The people of Iraq who had suffered under his reign of terror felt only relief. His name, once whispered in fear, became a symbol of cruelty and excess, a reminder of Iraq's darkest days. Uday Hussein had everything: power, money, and privilege, but in the end he died alone, unloved, and without honor. His reign of terror was finally over.